Welcome everyone to my latest action figure review, as we have another one for the newest Marvel Cinematic Universe movie with the ZD Toys Wolverine for Deadpool and Wolverine. So yes, the latest MCU hype, the third installment of Deadpool, has action figures released already. Somewhat surprising, I believe they only announced this or revealed this around 2 weeks ago. But here we have it. ZD Toys have jumped the queue ahead of the likes of Hasbro and some Russian nations to give us figures on the most talked about movie at the moment. Albeit it is 1/10 scale, so slightly taller. Hence one of the reasons why I don't pick up a lot of ZD Toys, since they don't quite fit in with my collection. But either way, it's still exciting times to finally see kind of what a Wolverine figure will look like in figure form, and of course for the first time wearing the classic comic colors. So Deadpool was also released this week, so be sure to check out my review. So let's take a look at the Wolverine, and this is the one that's probably the most anticipated. And for the budget, the price is relatively low, around $20 US. I wouldn't pay more than 30 for one, and that's just the way it is. It's kind of like a budget friendly type of figure, sort of kid friendly. I know the movies are rated, but yeah, this is something that you can pick up very easily. For the packaging, this is just like the Deadpool one, really nice in terms of the artwork. We have the logos at the front, Marvel, ZD Toys as well. And then on the side we have the logo once again with the scratches. And then going around all the way to the other side, we have a shot of the figure itself, more logos, and of course we have the stickers for ZD Toys and Disney. And then on the back, of course, we have a kind of a preview of what the figure is going to be like, with the overview of all the accessories. So out of the box, we have the figure of Wolverine inside its clamshell, and also all the accessories nicely presented in the other packaging. So here is a first look at the Wolverine figure taken out of its packaging. So first impressions, of course, instantly you can see the colors are really popping. We finally have a live action Wolverine in figure form with the classic costume, which is the blue and yellows. And it does somewhat feel like a comic Wolverine at the same time because of how bright it is. Of course, I do have to take in consideration ZD Toys' budget. They're not going to be the most detailed when it comes to the realism of a figure in comparison to, say, Marvel Legends or SE Figure Arts. And that's just the way it is. I think overall the sculpt is nice. And the way they've done this, I think the paints are all there. You can see the belt as well. And yeah, I really like the texture on the actual costume. It does look like something that Wolverine wore in the movie. And maybe the yellows could be slightly darker. Is it too bright? I know that ZD Toys is kind of a budget friendly figure, and it's also aimed for kids as well. So this is somewhat kind of a figure that can pass as a comic one, but we know that it is for the movie. So yeah, first impressions, I think the sculpt is nice. Of course, one of the standouts is the cowl. We finally have, of course, Wolverine wearing one. Now, I didn't really expect it, but you can see that the jaw isn't the best when it comes to not only the lightness. I think the paint is kind of very light. And I know ZD Toys are on kind of a budget, and I don't think they've ever done like a very good armrest head sculpt of any of their characters. I think most of the time they release ones with a mask on. So yeah, this is probably the most challenging for them, and I wouldn't say it's the best one in terms of the lightness. Other than that, I think the suit is nice. The yellows could be slightly darker, and other than that, I'm pretty impressed in terms of first impressions. Of course, this is the Wolverine that wears the long sleeves, and we know in the movie he does have the short ones as well. Maybe you're gonna have to wait for another company to do that. I think most of the companies have so far done the long sleeves, probably because they're going off kind of concept art, and we know that is something that's, yeah, it's kind of expected. So if they gave us an armrest head sculpt, it would have been nice, but I don't think it would have worked on a ZD Toys. I just don't think they kind of have the technology at the moment to do a really good one. So the best was to, of course, give us the mask version. So first impressions, it's decent. Of course, apart from maybe the jaw, the rest of it I do like. And next we can take a look at the different accessories. So for Wolverine, we do have some alternative hands. So this is the one right out of the packaging with the closed fists. So for the set of alternative hands, we have a pair of grappler hands. And we also get a pair of open palms. And for the fourth and final set of hands, of course, we have his main weapons, if you can call it that, as we have the claws built into his arms to give off that trademark look for Wolverine. and I'm sure 99% of people who have not only this Wolverine or any other figure will most likely use them with the claws. Don't get me wrong, it's nice to always have the alternative hands. I just wish they included the claws in some of the open palms as well, just to give him a bit more variety, because it's unlikely people will be using the other ones other than this one. And now paired up with the mask, of course, with the classic comic colors, this is really like a character that's jumped straight from the comic strips. So even though he does have long sleeves, it's still a very decent look. And I just wish they included some sort of alternative kind of look to the mask, because I know Deadpool, you can switch out the eyes. Maybe they should have done something like you can switch out for an angry face, just to give him a bit more kind of accessories to play around with. I didn't really expect the arm rust head sculpt, as I mentioned, as I don't think they really have the technology to do it. So this is the best we can do. The claws are made out of some sort of rubber material, so it won't actually snap easily. But of course, I think they just done this for just for safety reasons. And yeah, just still be careful, because if you bend it too much, it can kind of look out of place. So yeah, this is a very classic look for Wolverine. And even though we don't have any other accessories, this is pretty much all you need. And for the final accessory, we have this bonus, which is the display stand. And I believe ZD Toys tend to give us one, I'm not too sure. But I know that a lot of high quality, high end figures tend to have one. And it's just nice, considering ZD Toys' price point, to include something like this. It kind of does upgrade the display. And for Wolverine, of course, he can be in a standing pose, but if you want him in some sort of jumping pose as well, you can of course use this stand. And it's just built very simple with 3 different pieces. And what I like most about it is not just a standard one, you do actually have the logo. So yeah, I just wish more companies would follow suit and have something like this. And since I mentioned there is no alternative kind of faceplate for a Wolverine, of course we do want to see how he would look like if he was unmasked. So I do have some alternative head sculpts to swap him with. Of course it is from other figure companies. So ZD Toys is slightly taller than the likes of Hasbro Marvel Legends, so it might not entirely work in terms of scale, but I'm going to try anyways. So I do actually have a Diamond Select Wolverine figure, which kind of scales better with a ZD Toys, and I'm going to try on this head sculpt, and unfortunately it will not fit due to the peg being too big. It just doesn't fit into this, but you get the idea. If they had the arm rust head sculpt, it would look a lot more realistic. And the other option is of course a Marvel Legends, which does fit on. You can see this is the Logan figure that I have, and it's the most recent one of course he appeared in before this movie. But the one I really want to see is a Wolverine version with that classic hairstyle. And this is the look I really want. Yeah, I think this looks amazing. No lie, even though Marvel Legends is meant to be smaller, I think this certainly works. So if you have a Marvel Legends with this style, even though it doesn't totally connect, you can use some blue tack and it fits really well. So yeah, I think I may even use this over the mask version. This is just a really good look. And now we can take a look at the articulation, so the movement of the figure. So let's start off with the head sculpt. So it can turn side to side, no problems. It's actually very smooth, 360 spin, and then it can also tilt left and right. And then in terms of downwards motion slightly, and then we have upwards motion as well. And then for the arms, we have these shoulder pads which are not movable like Deadpool, but it doesn't hinder anything in terms of stretching the arms. So they can go side to side, and of course forwards and upwards. It does kind of hinder it, but you can move it backwards. And then you can stretch side to side, which is very important for Wolverine. And then inwards motion, which is decent as well. So good range there. And then of course we have the bicep swivel, and there is a bend as well, very far back. And then for the hands, of course, we have rotation, and there's like a very tiny hinge. And then for the body, so upper torso is very limited. You can see it kind of moves side to side, but not much there. But it does move backwards slightly, and then forwards it does take it apart, so just be very careful. So you can move it forwards. And then for the waist, not much movement. It's kind of the same as the Deadpool one. so you can't really rotate it, but it does have kind of a crunch forwards and then backwards as well. So for the legs, you can see they kick forwards, but once again it's very stiff out of the box, and then they rotate backwards as well. And then we can do the splits, I assume. Might have to pull the legs down. There you go. And then we also have rotation on the 4 thighs. And then the bottom half, there is a knee bend. So that's expected. And then for the boots, there's no movement, but we can of course move the shoes. So sideways, and it does kind of have a hinge. And there's also a toe hinge as well. So in terms of articulation, I guess it's kind of normal. Head sculpt is good. I think the legs are okay, but you don't get much movement on the body. And now for some size comparisons. Here it is standing next to some Marvel Legends Wolverines in the previous movies. And here it is next to an SE Figuarts Iron Man and Captain America. And here it is next to a Mayfix Bruce Wayne, as well as the ZD Toys Ryu. And here it is standing next to a McFarlane Toys Peacemaker and a DC Collectibles Deathstroke. So now for my final thoughts on the ZD Toys Wolverine from Deadpool and Wolverine. I say once again, it's a decent entry into the line. If you're looking for figures for this movie right now, especially straight after it, take into account the price, you are getting what's expected. The sculpt is decent for what it is, mostly the suit, although the colours do seem a bit too bright. Of course we have the claw hands for a classic look, but I feel there are too many sets of these standard hands. Maybe have the claws on more than just one for a bit more variety. The articulation could also be slightly better, and an unmasked head sculpt would have been a bonus, but I don't think they would have been the right choice, as I think the unmasked sculpt wouldn't have done well, especially as the masked version of the jaw is not the most detailed. And I definitely think adding the Marvel Legends works a lot better, and it does improve on the figure. The other main thing is to also have the sleeveless look, but that's what happens when you release this so early, and of course it's kind of based on concept art. No doubt for the time being this is fine to have as a display, but of course I do look forward to the other releases from the other companies. So I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. It's a good figure, but definitely not the definitive one. So stay tuned to more, and also watch my Deadpool review if you haven't already, and check out my other content related to the Deadpool and Wolverine line. Thanks for watching.